In today's video, we're going to be talking about a pretty disturbing family reunion, and the story of Katie and Steven Pladl is not your typical father and daughter story. It actually contains a lot of disturbing events, so make sure you watch the video till the end. Let's get started. Welcome to Guilty or Not, where we take a look at the world's most gruesome cases, analyse them, try to figure out why the perpetrator did their horrible deed. The story begins in 1995, when Steven Pladl, who's about 20 years old at the time, meets a 15-year-old girl on the internet named Alyssa Gracia. Steven and Alyssa would meet in person, would eventually become involved with one another, and this would eventually lead to Alyssa falling pregnant. In January of 1998, Alyssa would give birth to a baby girl named Denise, and according to Alyssa, once Denise was born, Steven actually became really abusive towards the baby. Alyssa claimed that Steven would pinch their infant baby's body and left her black and blue, and would leave her crying in rooms and wouldn't allow Alyssa to go in and take care of her. Despite all this, Alyssa did choose to stay with Steven and would end up marrying him. However, because they were young and neither of them had steady incomes, they weren't able to financially care for Denise, and they had to make the decision to give her up for adoption when she was about 8 months old. Alyssa stated in an interview that, while it was really hard to give up Denise, she really wanted Denise to live a good life and to be happy. Denise was adopted by a couple named Anthony and Kelly Fusco, and was given the new name of Katie Denise. Now known as Katie, she would move into Anthony and Kelly's home in Dutchess County in New York. They would go on to have another baby girl. Alyssa stated that they were more grown up and ready to have children at this stage of their life. And in 2012, the family welcomed a third baby girl into their family. Fast forward to 2016, Katie is now a teenager studying at Dover High School, and she's also an aspiring artist who loves to draw comic strips. After high school, she had plans to attend college and to pursue a degree in digital advertising. And around this time, Katie was also starting to become more interested in who her biological parents were. So she started tracking them down and would eventually find both Alyssa and Steven on social media. Both Alyssa and Steven were very happy to hear from their daughter and were more than eager to reunite with her. After she found her biological parents, she decided that she would move in with them and her biological sisters in their home in Henrico County, Virginia. But things weren't going so great between Alyssa and Steven, and apparently they'd been having a lot of problems in their relationship and were even sleeping in separate rooms months prior to Katie's arrival. Alyssa said that she often felt like she was walking on eggshells around Steven, and that their life together was very chaotic and sometimes violent. Steven was unable to keep a steady income or a steady job and was often always in a bad mood. Everyone in the household could tell immediately when Steven was in a bad mood. He would start yelling at Alyssa. He would start yelling at the kids. He would even start smashing things right in front of the children. Alyssa claimed that she was only still staying with Steven because anytime she even thought about leaving him, Steven would threaten to shoot himself if Alyssa left. After Katie had moved into the family's home, Alyssa had even told Katie that Steven used to abuse Katie when she was a baby. But she either didn't believe Alyssa or she just didn't care. And shortly after Katie's arrival into the family home, Steven's behaviour completely changed. He began wearing skinny jeans and form-fitting shirts and just trying to look good and try to impress his daughter. He apparently also started shaving his beard and growing his hair out long, and all of these things weren't typically things that he would do. What's even more disturbing is that about 6 weeks after Katie's arrival, Steven started sleeping on the floor of Katie's bedroom. This upset Alyssa greatly, which is very understandable, and she confronted Steven about it, but Steven told her to mind her own business and stormed out of the house with Katie. Eventually, things just got so bad and so awkward between Alyssa, Steven and Katie that Alyssa would end up moving out of their family home in November of 2016. However, even after Alyssa moved out, she would end up sharing custody of the children with Steven. Alyssa did say that she had a suspicion about Steven and Katie's relationship, but she had no idea how far it had gone. But in May of 2017, Alyssa's suspicions about Katie and Steven's disturbing relationship would be confirmed, and Alyssa would come to discover a shocking secret. Katie was now pregnant with Steven's child. Alyssa would uncover this disturbing secret through her 11-year-old daughter's journal. In addition to finding this out through the journal, Alyssa would find out from both of her younger daughters that Steven, who is their father, had told both girls to refer to Katie as their stepmom and not as their sister. When Alyssa found out about all of this, she was furious, and she immediately called Steven and asked him if Katie was pregnant with his child. And Steven would reply that he thought she knew they were in love, and Alyssa was furious and shocked. She called the police, and while the police did go to interview all of Steven and Alyssa's children, no arrests were ever made, and after all of this, Alyssa and Steven would go on to get a divorce. About 2 months after the divorce was finalised, Steven would marry his daughter Katie in Parkton, Maryland, in July of 2017. At this time, Katie would be about 20 years old, while Steven was about 42. Katie and Steven legally registered their marriage, and no one ever said anything about it because they lied on their marriage registration, saying that they were not related. But what's really disturbing is that their wedding ceremony was filled with guests that included their families. I'm talking about Steven's parents. I'm talking about Katie's adoptive parents. Katie's adopted parents believed that it was best that they just supported Katie with whatever she wanted to do, because they didn't really think that there was anything they could do. But that wasn't the case. Shortly after the wedding, on September the 1st of 2017, Katie would give birth to their baby boy Bennett, and happy and in love, Katie and Steven would move into a home in Knightdale, North Carolina. However, the happy time for the newlyweds wouldn't last very long. In January 2018, Katie and Steven would be arrested on incest charges. Both Katie and Steven were released on bond, and they were ordered to have no contact with one another. Steven's mother, on the other hand, was given custody of baby Bennett. After being released, Katie would move back in with her adoptive parents, Kelly and Anthony, in their home in New York. But twice a week she would make the trip down to Waterbury, Connecticut, where she could visit her son who was living with his grandmother. And around this time, Katie would also call Steven to end their relationship. This was something that Steven did not take well. Steven knew that Katie had plans to go and visit their son on April the 12th, and he planned to drive up to New York to catch her before she would leave to go and see him. He would do this on April the 11th. Before meeting Katie, Steven would drive over to his mother's house and he would go and take the baby. Steven told his mother that he would be bringing the baby to see Katie and that he would be back. However, he would not return, and instead he would bring the baby all the way back to his house, where he suffocated him and left his body in a closet. That same night, Steven drove a minivan all the way back up to Katie's adoptive parents' home. He parked across the street and waited for Katie and her adoptive father to come out of the house and get into their vehicle. Steven then followed them as they were leaving the home, and when Katie and her adoptive father Anthony stopped at a stop sign between Route 7 and 55, Steven pulled up next to them, pulled out a gun, and opened fire into their car cabin. Prior to shooting Katie and Anthony, Steven called his mother to tell her that he had taken baby Bennett to his home and he had suffocated the baby and left the body in a closet. Steven told his mother to call the police but not to go to the house herself. His mother called the police, and when they visited Steven's home in Knightdale, they found the body of baby Bennett. Katie and Anthony's bodies would also be found in their pickup truck, not too long after the incident. A passerby came along, saw the tragic scene and called the police to report it. Police also found Steven's body slumped over the driving wheel of his minivan, which was parked over the state border in Dover, New York. And Steven's cause of death was a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Katie, baby Bennett and Anthony were laid to rest on April the 21st at St. Charles Borromeo Church in Dover Plains, New York. And my friends, this brings our story to a close, and I've just got to say that this story was really disturbing. This was the case of Steven Pladl and Katie Pladl. Let us know in the comments what your take is. We're very curious to know if you consider him guilty or not. Until next time, keep your eyes peeled all the time.